Let me start off by saying I'm not a public speaker. This is the third time that I've spoken in front of people. The first time I felt the pressure, the governor's prayer breakfast. I was one of 3 speakers. The other 2 speakers were highly accomplished, well-known, politically connected females. And then they had me. Not only was I in front of all the politicians and people who had paid to be there, but my kids were sitting with the governor and lieutenant governor. If you knew my kids, you'd understand why I was sweating bullets. They're bad. They got a lot of their mother in them. So I made it through the event. I thought this part of my life was over. Then I was asked to speak at the National Air Guard. So I thought to myself, that can't be too bad. No kids this time. No one paying to get in. What I didn't take into consideration was that I was going to be completely intimidated by a few hundred airmen in uniform looking back at me. Not to mention, I wasn't aware that the theme was on suicide awareness. And they were all extremely excited to be there. So I got through that and was told, oh, that was just the first session. In an hour, you get to do it again. So I'd be lying if I didn't say I'm a little more comfortable today. I have the utmost respect for teachers. You see, I wanted to be a teacher. Education was one of my many different majors when I was attempting to come up with a career. But that was until one of my classes made me sit in with the middle school for a semester. I had no idea how intimidating kids could be. I went back to the college and said, criminal justice it is. I didn't learn my lesson there and got caught in chaperoning a middle school dance. Now, the only thing more terrifying than middle schoolers were middle schoolers in the dark. At that time, I was working at the prison in Smyrna, and I later told my wife I was more comfortable walking death row than being in that dance. So with that said, my kids aren't here today. We aren't talking about suicide, and not one of you paid to attend. They're actually paying you to be here. So let's go with it. I'm Kevin Cooper. I've been with the Department of Corrections for the last 17 years. 2 years as a correctional officer, the last 15 as a probation officer. But I'm not here to talk about work. I volunteered with youth programs for the last 9 years, baseball, football, church, etc. I did so out of obligation, not out of passion. No one tells you when you have kids and you sign them up for activities that you're going to get the talk that they need volunteers. Basically, if you were breathing and have a pulse, you qualify. So let me be clear, I've never been athletic, nor do I possess any great wealth of knowledge. I've always been straightforward. I'm the warm body that didn't say no. I will be here, I will try, but a great coach I am not. See ball, hit ball is about the best you're going to get. So I'm here today to tell a good story. You see, in 2016, I was done. I wanted nothing to do with coaching or being responsible for children. I had quit my board position. I was struggling. But God works in mysterious ways. In 2017, I took my son to a Little League tryout. And during the tryout, I was asked if I was going to coach. And my answer was simple, no. But then that warm body thing happened again. I was told this team needed guidance and love. I knew what this meant. This team needed structure and discipline. They thought because of my job I could handle this. I looked at the list of returning kids and I recognized several names who had been labeled as the bad attitudes. I thought to myself, this wasn't going to turn out like they thought. Let me explain how this works. Managers usually draft their kids or their kids' friends that look like their kids. I made the decision to work with the kids I was inheriting and to continue to pick kids based on athletic ability, regardless of reputation. Because of this, my team looked different than the other teams. The diversity stood out. Now, I can tell you about every kid on this team, but they gave me some time constraints for this talk. But the truth is, these kids knew how to lose. They just didn't know how to lose gracefully. During the season, we had meltdowns. We had outbursts. We blew leads of 8+ runs multiple times. It was clear this team wasn't popular. We had multiple complaints called in to league officials. We even had district officials attending our games. To say this was a pleasurable experience would be an absolute lie. But the positive thing that came from this season was I slowly won over each child's trust. The relationships were established. No matter what, these kids knew I had their back. Multiple plays. I didn't care about labels. I cared about hustle and heart. We went 6-6 for the season. I told them next year was our time. Over the offseason, I saw changes. You see, in Millsboro, I was known as an officer. When I was young, that was real important to me. Now, my wife has taught at the Millsboro Middle School for 18 years. So basically, with the youth, I was known as Mrs. Cooper's husband. But now, when I went to her school, I had become coach. Just not to my boys, but to the other kids in the league. Kids would come to my wife and say, "I want to play for your husband." And that was a good feeling. So the following year, okay, it was already known what I was going to do prior to the draft. I changed nothing. What I didn't know was I was drawn to kids with issues. We ended up with 6 different diagnoses. We had kids on meds, kids that needed meds, kids in counseling, and kids that needed counseling. Most were going to the same place. Shout out to Delaware Guidance. I knew we were going to be good, and I was excited. The first practice, we had a team meeting. And I told every kid why I picked them. Bang, I just went over the kids and their parents before we ever threw a pitch. We had learned to lose gracefully. Now we had to learn how to win with class. The first game, we won 20-1. But I was livid. The boys ran up a score. They didn't listen to the coaches. They ran wild. It was obvious this team had twice the talent as other teams. But how does that happen? I saw boys become young men. I watched potential reached. I watched young men who had previously been labeled become leaders. The team went undefeated, 12-0. For the stat people, 144 runs scored, 24 runs allowed. Let that sink in. Now I'm bragging. 9 of 11 made a postseason All-Star team. Remember, this was a team that didn't have a manager. The boys earned respect and recognition, and it was an amazing experience to be a part of. And after the season, a majority of this group aged out of the major league. But they have become my boys. They've exceeded my coaching limitations, but I still want to be a part of their lives. I have become a mentor. I visit them at school, attend their football games, wrestling matches, baseball games, and track meets. A year later, and I feel even more connected. If this story does anything, I hope to encourage all of you to take an interest in our community's youth. Remember, an old white guy with 0 talent was able to guide this group of kids no one wanted, the so-called undesirables, to an accomplishment they will never forget. So I started off by saying, in 2016, I was done. I was broken. You see, in 2016, many of you are aware of the story of Garrett Rogers, G-Money Strong. Some in this room participated in fundraisers and even took pictures showing their support. If you don't know the story, Garrett was hit by a drunk driver during a baseball practice while crossing the street to get a few foul balls. Garrett spent the whole summer fighting for his life. Garrett suffered a traumatic brain injury. He had to learn how to walk, talk, basically do everything from scratch. Well, Garrett is my nephew. I was the manager of Garrett's team that year. My sister-in-law had requested that Garrett be placed on my team because his father had passed away 6 months earlier. My sister-in-law left Garrett with me that Saturday afternoon. I saw what happened. I held him until the ambulance got there. I didn't think he was going to make it. I was responsible for him. He was my responsibility as his uncle and his coach. For the next year, I 100% blamed myself for what happened. I went to counseling, and it didn't help. Our community was incredible. The support the family received, was awesome. We couldn't go anywhere without someone asking about him. But inside, all I could think about was this was my fault. I didn't want to go in public. In my mind, people were saying, there's that guy. So, a lot has been said about what I did for these boys. But the real story here is what these boys did for me. Some thought I was crazy, the amount of time that I spent preparing for games, etc. But the truth is, this was keeping my mind off of what had happened. I was failing in other areas of my life, but I was determined I was not going to fail on these kids. I watched kids trust me. I watched parents trust me. For the first time, I coached with passion. This experience helped heal me, and each one of these kids participated in that. And for that, I'd like to thank each one of them. Now, the truth is, this speech was written for the governor's prayer breakfast. Someone from your administration saw it and asked me to come share it with you. But since that event, I wanted to share that Garrett was cleared after 3 years to step foot back on a baseball field. Garrett is not the same, but he's a fighter. During Garrett's first game back, after 3 strikeouts, he hit a home run. It gives me chills just to think about it. So what does any of this have to do with you? I don't really know. In my professional experience, I've met a lot of people in jails, on probation, etc., that aren't bad people. A lot of these folks came from good parents. But despite good influences, these kids still ended up in bad situations. What I've come to believe is that no one knows who these kids are being influenced by. What I believe is that teachers and coaches can have a major impact on these kids. Try to be that person that is the positive influence. Give kids a second, a third, a fourth chance. Don't allow yourselves to write off kids or fall into preconceived notions. Let them know you care about them and what's going on in their lives. So closing, I'd like to leave you with this. Go Marlins, G-Money strong, see ball, hit ball. Thank you for your time.